As many of you know, we've taken a little break from foraging here at the Apothecary. Not only are we in that odd period in between, summer and winter forage goodies, but it's Halloween and we absolutely love Halloween. So last week we were making our haunted house. A lot of you joined us for the making of that. And in this video, we're going to be making our favorite Halloween DIY yet. So following the release of the new Hocus Pocus movie, which we absolutely loved, many of you messaged me asking if I do a video on the making of the spell book or book. Unfortunately, I didn't film the beginning of it because we were already halfway through making it when the request came in, but I will try and explain what I did. Now, this is just one of the kids' old books. I just molded the snake, the snakes on the side, the clasp, and the eyeball out of that fantastic plastic that you've seen us use in many of our other videos. It is literally just little plastic balls heated up with hot water, and then it's completely moldable and dries solid once it cools. To get the eyeball, I just used a half teaspoon measuring spoon. There were many different versions of the book that you could find images of on Google, but this is the one that we decided on in the end. So we got to making this book, and all I'd done with that one at this stage was covered it with PVA glue, and that was single ply toilet roll, and that was just the first coat. To get the studs that go on the spine of the book, I just used some more of that fantastic plastic. Now, I did film this bit so you can see how it works, and I used one of these jewelry making resin mold things. So all you literally do is add the beads to some boiling water. They go translucent. Stick them in your mold or mold them to whatever you want them to be. And then, as I said, as they cool, they dry solid. But when I marked up where I wanted the studs to go, I realized that my book wasn't actually as thick as I wanted it to be. So unfortunately, I had to sacrifice one of the thicker boxes that I'd kept aside to make the graveyard scene, but not to worry, I just traced that around and then cut that out, of course. Please excuse my little guy in the background, he's awfully excited today. So then I just hot glued that to the back of the book. Unfortunately, this is one of the times that my hot glue gun decided to be awkward and didn't want to work. But it did eventually, and now my book was the perfect thickness, or at least the perfect thickness for me. The first layer of toilet roll hadn't quite covered over all the plastic and the hot glue, and they're very, very hard to paint on. They don't take color that well or paint that well. So I grabbed some PVA glue with a little bit of water mixed in, and I'm just going to give it a good coat. I do want it to have quite a lot on because the paper will soak it up and help it adhere better. So again, just popping the toilet paper on that layer of PVA and popping all the little bits in to make sure I get the shape. I do find if you put the paper on loosely, it makes it easier to get in all those bits. I then added a generous layer of PVA over it and popped book aside to dry for a while. But unfortunately, once he had dried, I realized that even the second coat hadn't quite covered properly, so I resorted to these sheets of gauze. Now, I do like the effect of covering the book over. Not only does it make it easier to paint on, or possible to paint on, but it also gives it that leathery effect that the book actually has. I believe he's supposed to be made of little children's skin or something like that, but shh, we won't tell the kids that. And as this gauze doesn't split or come apart like the toilet roll that I was using, I did find it a lot easier to get it in between all those bits. So I just repeated the process that I did with the toilet paper, covered it with a generous amount of PVA glue, and then coat again on top. I also found that using the paintbrush with the coat on top helped me get it inside all of those cracks, so you could see the snakes and the eye and everything better. I decided that it didn't matter to me whether Book could open, as he is just a prop, so I decided to just wrap the entire book. So I did it around the edges and around the spine of the book. And then, as I was getting rather impatient with this process now, I decided to pop him on the radiator for a while to help speed up the drying process. He did take a while to dry, as the layers are quite thick now, but once he was dried and armed with my brother's glue gun, which I had to steal because mine have now completely given up, I just glued those studs in place and used the hot glue gun to make the stitch effect that is on the spine of the book. As with the front, I did have to go over it a couple of times as it wasn't really showing up that well. But once that was done, I just added the little stitches bit in the same way. And while that was drying, and because I'm so impatient, I decided to start the painting, and I started with the white of the eyeball. I did use an oil paint for the white in the platinum white, as I wanted the eyeball to have a glossy effect, but as I will be varnishing it over, I'm not entirely sure that this was very important. And then for the leathery color, I'm using a combination of the siennas and the burnt umbers, and I'll be mixing those together to get the textured leathery effect that the book has. So I gave him a base coat with the lightish brown that I'd mixed up, and then using some of that burnt umber, the darker color, I went in and did the top of his eyelid, inside the lock bit or the latch bit, inside the snake's little crevices, and some dry brushing up the edge to give it that textured look. The snakes and the latches on the picture I've got are in a silver color, and all I had was this light silver. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up, and the picture that I had, it's actually quite an old looking silver, kind of like a gunmetal silver. So I just roughly brushed over all those detailing at this point. The way this is looking, I'm probably going to end up at least giving it a second coat, if not mixing up a grey and putting the grey down first and then doing some accents with the silver over, or after anyway. The scars have kind of a bronzy gold color, so all I've got is this gold. So when I did it with the hot glue gun, rather than just doing one line, I did two lines next to each other of the hot glue. This kind of gives it the appearance that the two pieces of skin have been brought together, and then the lines across that I waited till the rest of the hot glue had dried and did a second coat of them over, as I did want them to stand out from the actual scar marks. So I just gave them a rough coat with this gold. And then once they dried, I actually decided to go back in with that burnt umber and define those areas in between the skin and the scar bits. Also did some extra detailing around the inside of the latch so that it pronounces the fact that they're stuck up. I also did that in with the snakes to define those areas. And then for the final touch, I decided to go with this beautiful emeraldy green color for his eyeball. As you can see, I used a template to try and get the circle right, as I am rubbish at free drawing circles or free painting circles. And I did end up mixing a darker grey colour for the snakes on the sides, painting that in the dark grey, and then just doing a light coating of the silver over. It looked too new with just the silver, and it didn't quite stand out with the rest of the book, so I like it like this. Unfortunately, I didn't film it as I didn't finally make up my mind till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I wasn't pulling out all the recording equipment then. Then once he was all dry, and to make sure that he lasts as long as possible, because he is officially now our favorite Halloween DIY ever and our newest member of the family, we gave him a good spray with the varnish, concentrating on his eyeball to make it nice and shiny. As I said, I absolutely love this DIY. He's going to be centerpiece of all of our Halloween decorations for years to come. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry again that I missed out the first bit, but I hope I explained it well. Let us know if you guys give this one a go. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. In our next video, we will be making a wreath for the door, as the girls don't want to go with our usual skeleton on the toilet picture this year. I will of course be filming that and posting that as well. Again, let us know if you guys do try this. Please post your pictures, share them in the comment section down below. I'd love to see them. Pretty sure that, you know, if I ever have to do this again, I've learnt my mistakes and it'll probably, hopefully, be better. But we've become quite close to him, and hopefully he stays with us for a while. Also, let us know if there's any other cool Halloween DIYs that you're trying. Share with us. Maybe I can give them a go too, as our haunted house turned out awesome, but we need more ideas. Happy Halloween and happy crafting, guys.